So a new look defense. Look, this Ole Miss defense was incredible last season. It was the #2 scoring defense in the country, arguably one of the best defensive lines. And Tyler, mistake me if I'm wrong, I think they have like one returning starter. What is this defense for Ole Miss going to look like? Could they potentially live up to last season's?
Yeah, it's going to be really, really hard for them to live up to what they had last year, just both on the defensive line and kind of secondary. It's a whole new look back there, up front and in the back. But there is some promise, again, with TJ Daugherty, the quarterback of the defense, returning. He was the main communicator from what Pete Golding wanted to do. He moved up to the box ever since the radio came into the helmets. And then you return a five-star talent in Suntarine Perkins, a guy who's looking to go to the NFL draft after this year. He's gone on record in saying that. And if he can build off a 10.5 sack season that he had as a true sophomore, he's a very versatile piece for this defense. He's listed as a linebacker, but comes off the edge as well and could set up others on that new look defensive line that features Deshaun Womack, Zaven Harris, and Princewell Uman Millen as well.
Let's go.
Feels like it's going to have to be a defensive game. LSU's offense has kind of struggled in recent weeks, and I think that's where the concern is right now, where you've heard the defense is having a lot of fun over there in Baton Rouge, and maybe the offense is playing catch-up a little bit. And as far as the Ole Miss defense, I think a clear area they have to improve on is the run defense, an area where LSU just so happens to not be very good at, and their leading rusher, Caden Durham, I believe, has an ankle sprain who's questionable in the game. We expect him to be limited, and if the Rebels can shut down the run and force Garrett Nussmeier to pass 50 times today, I think the result could be different than last year.
The Rebels this year to get done what they want to get done with all the changes, but also the history of success the past few years.
Going 1-0 each week and not looking too forward. Maybe they did some of that last year and we just talked to Caden Lee about how that schedule is kind of set up. You don't have 4 straight non-conference games to start the year. You have a Kentucky, Arkansas, and then LSU all in September. Three SEC games to start the year, kind of. So, I mean, they're going to have to get off to a fast start, I think, faster than last year. And they'll be more ready, I think, with how the schedule is set.
Taylon Green is the key for an Ole Miss defense that is still showing that it can get to the quarterback. How important is to put the clamps on a guy that's been playing way, way well in the first 2 weeks?
Yeah, I think it could be the difference in the game. If you can't contain Taylon Green, who's in his second year in the SEC, as you said, now healthy, you could have some issues for, again, another young defense that still has a lot to prove. 23 points to a Kentucky offense that maybe some don't really think is that good. But so, yeah, containing Taylon Green is going to be huge, and I think another reason why you got to watch this Ole Miss run defense, because he's a threat.
One more thing on that, too, is Taylon Green's the one returner, really, from the impactful offense that we saw from the Razorbacks last year. In just a few words, what's your key for the Rebels to slow him down in a world where their transfers and other people may still be trying to find their footing here in Week 3?
Yeah, I think, well, this perfectly sets up for a guy like Suntarine Perkins, who's played plenty of spy
Raleigh
in his
grad
time.
for us.
There you go. And he's played plenty of spy at his time in Ole Miss. Did a great job against Milroe as a true freshman. So someone like that with, so many transfers, as you said, someone that has experience doing that for Ole Miss, I think could be the key difference. And by the way, he only has 2 tackles on the year, and this is supposed to be Ole Miss's best player. So this is a perfect game for him to kind of
And Tyler, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the reason why it's a little bit lighter is because, like, even in these crazy times, Ole Miss has not only played the hand that they're dealt, but they've thrived in this situation. Yeah. What do you kind of make of that, and some of the other things that we heard from SEC Media Day?
You hit the nail on the head. I mean, they've maximized, all these new rules that some coaches and some programs are a little bit hesitant to adapt, but that's just the new way of not just college football, all college sports, either adapt or die. But some of the things that we expected to hear that we ultimately didn't was, like you said, State of the Union, some comments about tampering. That was surprising, and no comments about Jeff Levy, no questions about that in the main stage or breakout room. So I thought that was pretty surprising, but I thought that overall the group kept their composure with all the rat poison that came their way.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought maturity, I don't know, it was a different Lane Kiffin that we saw. I mean, yeah, he was heavy-hearted for sure, but he really didn't want to take away from the day and doing his job. Just, that's what his dad would have wanted. That's what he said. And he wasn't shy either to talk about, all the heartfelt messages he received from coaches across the SEC like Hugh Freeze, Nick Saban. So that was pretty cool to see kind of his legacy still have an impact on 2024 SEC Media Days.
I'm sure the Rebels should feel confident, but what do you make about this situation the Rebels are in with two viable quarterbacks, but needing to lean on one or the other and seemingly changing every day?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack there. First of all, Austin with his injury, left ankle, suffered in week 2. He's still not healthy, still getting there. Obviously, Lane Kiffin plays his gamesmanship on Monday, as you heard, saying he expected Austin Simmons, which was a surprise to everyone. Nobody expected Simmons to be ready to go, especially Tulane before LSU. I think is another good opportunity for Trinidad Chambliss, and I don't think right now Lane Kiffin has an issue or controversy on his hand, I should say, because right now I think he is starting just a healthy quarterback. But I will say, another performance like Chambliss had against Arkansas, and I think things could get really interesting before LSU.
Right, in a way, because you're saying he's really good, and so how do you decide who should play when that guy is just on fire right now? And he said D2 football, where he basically won what was equivalent to the Heisman Trophy at D2, is still football, and he showed that he can perform at the D1 level. Speaking of quarterbacks, though, Jake Retzlaff transfers in from BYU for Tulane. The Green Wave have a dual-threat guy now under center. What does the Ole Miss defense have to do in this game to step it up for a guy like this coming in for what's maybe one of the best G5 teams in the country?
Yeah, they're going to have to contain, get pressure, and not over-pursue, some things they didn't do last week against Arkansas. I think you're going to see a lot of comparisons between this game and that game just because the quarterbacks are so similar with their dynamic skill set. And Ole Miss has really been struggling at defending the run this year. I think they're averaging 195 rushing yards allowed per game up to this point. Taylor Green really torched them on the ground last week, and it opened up their entire offense. So it's going to be interesting to see how they respond to a similar quarterback this year who's been off to a really hot start, actually.
The Rebels already with 2 SEC wins.
This game gets away, meaning Ole Miss is leading by a lot as they're expected to, that Austin Simmons maybe comes in to see where he's kind of at in-game action.
Yeah, that's a huge question, right? Austin Simmons' health, his left ankle, we heard some hip issues too. Obviously re-aggravated it in week 3, but he's been suiting up ever since, and Lane Kiffin hasn't said he's been unavailable. So if this game does get out of hand, as we kind of expect, I would be surprised if Austin Simmons didn't get out there, and that would certainly raise questions after the game, and that would quickly become the storyline because, again, Ole Miss comes in as a 30-point favorite in here, and they have a Heisman candidate at this point in Trinidad Chambliss starting today. So,
right. And kind of moving to the other side of the ball, at WREG, we got a few Ole Miss fans over there as well, and there's a guy, Justin, shout out Justin, our producer, he and I talk, and he said the one thing as a fan he's kind of worried about is Ole Miss's run defense. Can you talk to people about that and just kind of break that down for me?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the run defense was certainly a concern, especially through the first 3 weeks of the season and the first 2 weeks of SEC play. But I will say, against LSU, they not a strong run offense now, but they really shut them down. I think they 20 attempts to 58 yards, so that is certainly the point of emphasis.
The Boston Celtics were able to complete a first-round sweep over the Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving-led Nets on Brooklyn's home floor. The Nets came into the season as championship favorites, but now closed their 2021-2022 season as one of the biggest disappointments in NBA history. However, unlike Brooklyn, the Toronto Raptors were able to save their season after a Game 5 win over the Philadelphia 76ers. The Raptors are hoping it won't be their last trip to Philly this season as they try to force a Game 7 with a win this Thursday at home. The Mavericks and Jazz also went head-to-head last night. However, Dallas easily took care of business at home, winning by 25 points, taking a 3-2 series lead. And tonight, the Memphis Grizzlies return home for a crucial Game 5 matchup with the Minnesota Timberwolves. In Game 4 on Saturday, the Timberwolves tied the series at 2 apiece when they defended their home court with a 1-point victory. Yesterday, Grizzlies' third-year point guard Ja Morant was recognized as the league's most improved player. However, shortly after winning the award, Morant revealed on his Instagram that he left the trophy in Desmond Bane's kitchen, a fellow teammate of his. Ja made it known that he believed that the award should have gone to Bane. Man, I wish Ja was my teammate. That's all I got to say. That's all I've got for sports.
Baseball is having a strong 2025 season. The Rebels are ranked 11th in the country on the D1 baseball poll, and they already have 28 wins, which is one more than all of last season, still with 15 regular season games remaining this year. 3 of their starting pitchers are local grads in Hunter Elliott, Riley Maddox, and Mason Nichols. So for today's Sunday Conversation, CBS affiliate and 247 Sports Ole Miss beat reporter Tyler Komis speaks with us about the Rebels' success and how local grads are powering the turnaround. We're here at Swayze Field at Ole Miss in Oxford, Mississippi. I'm joined by fellow New Jerseyan Tyler Komis from 247 Sports, football and baseball Ole Miss beat reporter. Thanks for taking a second to be with us. We just watched an amazing game here. Are you going to field some grounders? That's what we're doing out here in the outfield right now, right?
That's right, absolutely.
I figure at this point you covered the team long enough that it's rubbed off on you. It hasn't on me, so I'm just going to stay with talking with you. But bringing you on because you're our Ole Miss expert, Ole Miss baseball. A year or so after they won that College World Series, looked like weren't sure how the future was going to look for the program, and now suddenly they're one of the top-ranked teams in the country. What have you seen that's been most impressive to you about the Rebels baseball team this year?
Yeah, a lot of fight out of this team. It feels like, older group. It feels like compared to the last two seasons where they've really struggled, and coming into the year, it really felt like, honestly, Mike Bianco might have been on the hot seat a little bit. Brings in a first-year pitching coach in Joel Mangrum that's really turned around his pitching staff, it seems like, and it's translated to a lot of wins so far. I want to say they're past where they were in 2023 and 2024. Just picked up their 28th win of the season against number 5 Tennessee, who's just number 1 last weekend. So, they look like they've turned it around kind of, and Mike Bianco's job looks pretty safe at this point, I'd say.
Right. It's amazing how quick tables can turn, and for this team, it's in the right direction. They're beating some of the top teams in the country, and they're really hitting their stride at a time where it looks like they want to be doing that and have shown that growth throughout the year. Is there anything in particular that stood out to you most about this team that's been a key to their success as compared to maybe the past few years that was lacking?
Yeah, it seems, a little cliche, and I guess, again, it just seems like the theme of this team is just a lot of fight and a lot of grit, and just stuff we haven't seen before the last few years. It feels like when they go down this year, they're able to somehow muster up enough confidence, muster enough hits, strikeouts to get themselves back in the game, and I feel like that's been a real difference, I guess, the maturity of this team.
One of the guys who's grown with the team, we just spoke with Coach Bianco about Riley Maddox. He's actually a Jackson Prep grad from our area. He's in his senior year now. His freshman year was winning the College World Series a year after winning the high school state championship with Jackson Prep. So this guy knows what winning takes, but now he's a senior and he's in big situations for the team. What do you like about him on the mound?
Yeah, no doubt. And you talk about a guy that's seen it all throughout his tenure at Ole Miss, but really like the confidence he's shown again, really opened up about his mental struggles the past few weeks and how first-year pitching coach Joel Mangrum, broke down in front of him and, he's helped him regain his confidence. So I think that's a big thing. Obviously the fastball, throwing it harder, it seems like. Even, there were some questions that his job might have been in jeopardy, up until his performance up in Lexington last weekend where he really pitched lights out. Arguably, another great arguably his best outing again this, against Tennessee, one of the best offenses in all of college baseball. So, again, another really mature player who's developed under Mike Bianco and first-year pitching coach Joel Mangrum, I think.
What does Ole Miss have to do in these last few weeks of the season to be ready for the postseason, to take everything that they've done to become a noticeable team? That's how you get a number in front of your name. What do they have to do now so that they're ready for the playoff atmosphere and to take this all the way?
Yeah, I think I'm going to steal what Mike Bianco tells his team after every game, shower well. Can't get too high, can't get too low, and that's kind of what the rigors of the SEC are, right? I mean, you're week in and week out of all this competition, and Ole Miss has responded well, 9-5 in conference play right now. So, just continuing, I think, just to not get too high or too low. I think it's really all part of the mental aspect of being a part of the SEC.
Awesome. Well, plenty more baseball to go, and if this team keeps playing the way that it is, we might have a lot more baseball down the road into these hotter summer months. So thanks so much, Tyler.
When you previously said, you talked about the helmet communication, how much of an advantage that would be. What are your thoughts on the tablets to the sidelines coming to the game?
I really wasn't for it, but that's just for my own reasons, because I'd rather the other team not have it, because we go so fast that I think they don't see a lot of it, and so now it allows them to see what really happened. So most coaches were for it, but so we'll just, like anything that comes in, of any new college rules, we'll just try to maximize the situation and do the best with it.
Thanks, guys. Final time tonight, one final time for the regular season. I can't believe we're already here. Brad Logan alongside Jared Redding and Tyler Komis for Rebs 247. That's, of course, an affiliate 247 Sports and Inside the Rebels. And the word legacy, Tyler's thrown around a lot. Now, did Jackson Dart win the big game this year in regards to
Are they going to the college football playoff? I mean, we won't know that probably until next Tuesday.
That's right.
But I thought his legacy was cemented tonight. Breaking Eli Manning's record as career passer. He was pretty emotional, talked about emotional after the game. What are your thoughts after we interviewed him and talking to Lane about Jackson?
Yeah, I think Jackson's been a huge part of this turnaround we've seen with Ole Miss, as far as when Lane got here and when Lane's at the end of year 5 now, and he was a part of that big 2022 class that helped really shape this 2024 Ole Miss team as well. And you can thank Jackson Dart for helping in the recruiting efforts as well. And you said it, I think he cemented his legacy, well over 10,000 passing yards now, passes Eli Manning. Maybe not his best performance, but he's kind of a gritty kind of player that plays this kind of style that it might not be the prettiest, but for the most part, it helps you win games. And you saw that tonight. He made the winning plays, I thought.
About the offense in general, what gives you confidence that this run game can rebound from last season?
Our offensive line. I think that, we only lost one guy to the league, and then we retained everybody else. And then at the same time, we bring in, very talented players who have played in national championships. And I just think that that's super important that we're able to retain the talent that we have. And a lot of those guys have played a lot of football. So, when you're able to lean on those big horses at the end of the game, I feel really confident that we're going to be able to do that.
Jack,